Dense, rain-soaked woods of northeast Ohio, something large and unexplained moved through the trees in early March 2026. What began as a scattered ordinary days for local residents quickly turned into a series of unsettling encounters that left people questioning what they had seen and what still might lurk in the shadows. Let's get into it. The report started on March 6 in Manawa Center area, Portage County. One involved a daytime sighting around 12:23 p.m., where a seasoned researcher described a roughly 9-foot tall brown figure moving through the trees. And additional encounters followed in the same area. The next day, March 9th, the accounts multiplied. In Garrettsville, one woman who had never believed in such stories before claimed she had seen a massive figure running through the woods. Other reports came in from Streetsboro and along Route 303, where a mother and a daughter said they had come within 3 feet of a 6.5-foot tall brown creature while driving. Witnesses consistently described bipedal figures between 6 and 10 feet tall, with dark or brown hair, long strides, and occasional grunts, and sometimes a distinct musty odor. Traffic shifted eastward by March 10 in Newton Township of Trumbull County around 4 a.m. A resident spotted what looked like a large black shadow 8 to 10 feet tall near the woodline. The family dog reacted strongly, adding to the tension of the moment. Investigators noticed a clear eastward movement across the sightings, as if a small group or family unit was traveling roughly 3 miles per day along the wooded corridors and the Headwater Trail. Over those 5 days, between 6 and 8 separate reports emerged, a concentration that stood out even in a state with a long history of such accounts. This Bigfoot activity, often called the 2026 Ohio Bigfoot Flap, drew attention from local groups like Bigfoot Society and the Bigfoot Mapping Project. They conducted interviews and ground searches that continued into April. Social media filled with the discussions, and some communities felt a heightened sense of caution when venturing into the wooded areas. Local businesses occasionally leaned into the curiosity with light promotions, while media outlets, including regional news outlets and national segments, covered the reports. Around the same period, a separate Class B report surfaced in Ashland County involving possible large tracks and wood knocks, but no visual sightings. In the months leading up to the flap, Ohio had seen more isolated incidents, such as May 2025, sighting in Jefferson County, and wood knocks reported in Carroll County in September 2024. Ohio has ranked among the higher states for Bigfoot reports over the years, and yet the tight clustering in Portage and Trumbull counties felt different in its intensity. As of mid-April 2026, the concentrated wave has quieted, with no major new clusters reported in the immediate area, though occasional mentions of follow-up investigations continue. For those who live nearby and hike those local trails, the events serve as a quiet reminder that much remains unknown in those familiar woods just beyond our backyards. And what if those sightings weren't just random? What if there is something far stranger that is actually going on? You know what this means? It's time to remote view. Before we go any further, let's elevate your journey, personal and cosmic. Meet your must-have companion, the Energy Healing Map at mdhmap.com. Perfect for beginners and pros, it's your guide to clearing trapped emotional energies like ancestral or past life baggage, aligning your vibration with your goals. Imagine releasing old vibes to unlock new skills like remote viewing. With a clear energy field, you'll tap into the unseen. MDHmap.com helps you heal, grow, and explore your universe. Grab your energy healing map today, clear the past energies, and align your vibe, and see what's out there. Visit MDHmap.com now.
I am so impressed with this website, how well you've done it. You know, I worked in analytics, IT systems before, and I'm thinking, wow, this is a lot of work. And the navigation and to know and just the whole mapping, you must be a very analytical person because this is so well done. I love it. Thank you.
Companion. All right, superhumans, we are in part 2 in our associated remote view of the Bigfoot flap. And with me is Christina, another QHHT practitioner who loves to delve into all things woo and consciousness. How are you doing, Christina?
I'm good. How's it going, Sally?
It's going great. I gotta tell you, this was so fascinating when I heard about this migration of Bigfoot,
Yeah.
in Ohio. And,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on in the Buckeye State. My dad was a Buckeye. And when we were little kids, he, if he didn't want us to wander off, when we go to a cabin in like Minnesota, he would say, don't wander off too far. The woolly booger will get you. I didn't know what a woolly booger was until I found out it was a colloquial for Bigfoot, in southeast Ohio.
Oh, wow.
So, or at least it was back in the 30s and 40s. Who knows what it is today? But
Right.
so, what did you get that's going on in the Buckeye State? Were
Well,
you associated remote viewed?
yeah, associated remote view because of course we know the topic. So yeah. Um, I got a couple of things. Sometimes I felt like some of the sightings were actually bear. Like people were actually like seeing a bear stand up. So if they're seeing them at dawn and dusk, that's kind of what I felt like that was going on a little bit for some. But I did get that there are Bigfoot moving through that area. And it feels to me like they're moving because we are encroaching on their habitat. That's kind of what it feels like to me.
So when I tune into that, even like right now, I do feel, and I felt this when I watched the Bigfoot flap on Bigfoot Society, which if anybody hasn't started following him, I think his name is Jeremiah Byron. Watch him. He does such a good job when he interviews people. But at any rate, when I was listening to this Bigfoot flap that he had, and that period of time there where it was along the woodline, I sort of got there. But the thing that sort of made me question that was that in that area of Ohio, there's not that many black bear like you see around Gatlinburg, but they have been known to migrate in a little bit from Pennsylvania a little bit. This was a little bit further west.
Mhm.
So, not to say, I don't know. I'm gonna come down on the fence on that one,
Mhm.
because I know that they're encroaching a little bit more, so that feels right.
Mhm.
And people are seeing them and mistaking them. I totally get that. But in the area that we're talking, kind of just northeast of central Ohio, I don't think that they've migrated that far. But I could be wrong. I mean, there's always an odd duck out there, and
Right.
that's why maybe people would know, well, there's no black bear here. There could be none of that going on. So that sort of makes sense, I guess, in that way. But I gotta tell you, I'm not getting bear in that area.
So
I
I would have to say that I really didn't specify an area when I asked the question.
oh, you
So
see, you
so
see how it has to be so specific in the
so
question.
I would say now that I re-ask the question specifying an area, okay, because I was just kind of walking through it in my mind, just like, hey, what is this? Blah blah blah.
Right,
And
when you do the associated remote view, right?
right,
Yeah,
and so I didn't really ask for an area. So when you talk about the areas you're talking about, you're right, there aren't any bear to speak of in those areas. So at least that's what, when I tune in and do the specific area question, you know,
it changes everything.
it
It's just
changes
like,
everything.
every time we
So,
do that, we'll get to the point where we disagree and like we find out it's a language issue.
right, and completely a language issue because I'm just like, well, okay, so what didn't I have in my question? And
Well,
I didn't specify
okay.
an area.
So here's the challenge for you. This is what I got initially when I tuned in. And I didn't tune in yesterday like I had planned, but this is initially when I did the first part of the recording last week for the Bigfoot flap. When I was sitting with it at that time, I got a feeling, yes, there is the encroachment of development. I get that. But I feel more what's taking place is the Schumann resonance and the solar flares combined are shifting the magnetic field. And just like every animal on Earth, I do feel magnetism sort of directs them, just like birds, or the
Yeah.
migration of any animal.
Right.
They're usually affected by the solar activity
Mm-hmm.
and the Earth's magnetism. And if you have seen recently, this is kind of cool. If you've been paying attention to the Schumann resonance
Yeah.
and the Bigfoot flap, I mean, the Schumann resonance was like way, way high
Mm-hmm.
during that same period that you
Right.
saw this migration of Bigfoot.
Right. Right.
So,
And yesterday solar activity was off the charts. Like this week
right.
in general has been off the
And
charts.
And so when people are talking about Bigfoot, if you think about it, sometimes you hear stories about the infrasound. So
Yeah.
you know that, a lot of animals depend on that for their survival. And so I feel when I tuned into that last week, not yesterday, but last
Right.
week, it was all to do with the magnetism and the Schumann resonance. It's all interplaying is
Mm-hmm.
the solar flares, the Schumann resonance. It's all coming together, and they do what they would naturally do as
Mm-hmm.
any other migratory animal or
Right.
being. Because I don't. For me, I do feel they're a human hybrid, obviously, just because of Dr. Melba Ketchum's DNA analysis that has been so heavily reviewed. Plus, there's other DNA analysis. It is the mitochondrial is female, but the male DNA is they don't know the why. They don't know where that came from. There's no reference for it. So I do feel it is a hybrid
Right. Yeah.
species.
Yeah. For sure. And I have to agree when I sit back and I look at, the Schumann, and ask the question, is this, their movement and their sightings, is it due to, the Schumann and magnetic stuff? Well, absolutely it is. Because as you said, animals do what they do, So for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure, right? Oh my goodness. All right, Christina, we need to look what we're going to be looking at next. What do you got?
So, up next, we are going to ARV King Charles again and the royal family. We're going to do an update because, sometimes timelines shift. And so, we're going to take a look and see where things are at now.
It's interesting. You know what? Because we talked about doing another associated remote view of the timelines. And I said, no, it's not quite right. And now that you just said that, what just hit, this is a great example of how timelines can shift. And what we mean in all that is that the energy can feel one way at a certain moment in time, And one decision can shift the entire timeline, because if you can see it, it can change. Because everybody has free will, right?
Yep.
But we can definitely see where the energy is and how his life energy, is it depleting? Is it getting stronger? What's going on with him?
Yeah.
All right, everybody, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss another upload of all things woo in consciousness. And if you can, if there is a hype button, hype it, because our message is to tell everybody that you are superhuman. And with
Absolutely.
that, thanks for watching.
Absolutely.